Good morning, good morning, good morning. It's Pause with Elizabeth Eleanor, and today we're going to be talking about healthy boundaries in dating, when it comes to dating, right? So I would love for you to share in the chat, how are you, what's going on for you today, where you're watching from, and if you're watching the replay, hashtag replay, because we'd love to see you in here and be able to say, hi, how you going? So, healthy boundaries when it comes to relationships. I'm just going to quickly have a look at my thing and make sure that I'm on here. Yes, I am. There I am. And so, when it comes to dating is, especially at the start, right? When you're first starting to date, all of the things that can come up, all of the old patterns, all of the fears of rejection and judgment, and all of those things can come up, right? But if you are holding your choice of having a conscious relationship, then in that process, it's having some really clear understanding of who you are and what you stand for and what you stand against, and being really clear with that with yourself as well as the other person, right? So when I was growing up, because our childhood has a lot to do with the way we behave now, especially if you haven't cleaned up anything, any of your vibrations, any of the patterns, all of that stuff, right? So when I was growing up, I didn't have any examples of healthy relationships. In fact, I'd love for you to put in here if you were the same. Did you have an example of a healthy relationship, either with your parents, or whether it was a neighbor or someone you knew, another family member, that you saw them having a really balanced, healthy relationship, and so you were able to recognize what it looked like and be able to model from that, right? For me personally, I didn't have that. So I grew up the youngest in the family, and so by the time I came along and was conscious of what was going on, my dad was sick on a kidney machine. And so my mum worked. She was the breadwinner of the family. She was never at home, and she was the grumpy old man sort of syndrome, like she'd come home she owned her own business, and so she'd come home from work, from, whatever she was doing at the time, because she had a few different jobs or, businesses that she was running. And we all had to cater to her. So she was like in her wounded masculine, and my dad was in his wounded feminine, because he would be the one, compromising. He would be the one that was submissive. He would cater to all the things that she needed. She would go on and carry on if nothing, the dinner wasn't ready, and it was too cold, or too much this or too much that, or whatever, and he would be the one cowering, trying to work out what to do about it. He wasn't that bad, actually. He wasn't in his feminine where he wasn't, he'd fight back, right? But he definitely didn't have the capability of setting boundaries when he was relating to my mum. And so that's the environment I grew up in. So one, it created me to be a really strong woman, and I found myself in relationships where I was the breadwinner. I was the one that was, especially the first two relationships, I was the one that was making the money while they weren't, or there was some reason why they couldn't, or they had a lower pay, and I had that strong energy in me. But I didn't cater to, I didn't actually create men that were like my dad, that were submissive. I created men that were very powerful and would power over me, because my mum powered over me, right? And so there was these times when there was a lot of conflict and a lot of challenges, because I didn't know how to set healthy boundaries because there was this powering over from my mum. And Dad and I used to just do what we were told, right? And we had this thing. Mum would come home, and if I'd done something wrong, my dad would take the blame. And if he'd done something wrong, I would take the blame. So we were like this we were in cahoots together to support each other emotionally through the process, right? So tell me in the chat where you're at when it comes to relationships. Are you in a relationship? Are you dating? Are you looking for a partner? Are you like done with it and you're just on your own journey? Have you made the choice not to be in a relationship? Like, I'd love to know in the chat where you're at, and what boundaries you feel like you might need to work with, right? So here's a couple of things that when it comes to dating, and these are the things that you want to look at straight up, because when you're in a space where you're just starting to date, and we're going to talk about this a little bit more in next week's session about settling, right? Settling for less than you deserve. But there are a few things that you can find straight away that can be red flags that we tend to just allow when really we've noticed them, right? We've already noticed them, but we don't do anything about it. And often it's because we're concerned about being rejected or judged. I got myself an Alice cup. Do you like my Alice cup? It's pretty cool, hey? My Alice in Wonderland cup to go with my Alice, the little AI that we use in here. And so, hey Irene. And so let's talk about a few of the things that will give you a bit of an understanding or a bit of an opportunity, because pause is all about reflecting, right? And also when you're on here, you get the opportunity to share in the chat or ask any questions so that we can have a deep dive together and have a discussion about this. So the first one I want to bring up is personal space and time. If you're dating someone and you find that they're trying to control you and how much time you spend with other people, for example, or they want to see you all the time, or they're not actually engaged emotionally or physically, and so you're finding that you're sitting at home wondering if we're going to get together because there was some sort of assumption that you were going to get together on the weekend or whatever, and it didn't happen, then be aware of these triggers, right? There's these moments where your energy will notice it, right? There'll be a little bit of a bump. I call it an energy bump. There's something in there, right? So watching your personal space and your time. Are your needs being met with how much time and space you want to spend with this person? Do you want to get to know them, but they're being elusive, right? Or are they in your face and too much, where they're giving you, they're not leaving you alone at all, and they're, texting all the time, or where are you, or ringing you, in inappropriate times. Maybe you're at work, or, like it's late at night and you're getting a text message or a phone call, and then asking where you are, right? So there's no trust involved as well. So that's one of the things. Where do you sit with that? Because no one can tell you this. This is little pieces and nuggets for you to consider for yourself, so that this is a reflection opportunity to reflect. How do you feel about your own personal space and time when it comes to relationships, when you're dating, right? So that's the first thing. Communication is another one. So when it comes to communication, are there clear and honest communication where you both know where you stand, you feel quite comfortable being able to speak about that bump that might have happened, right? And saying, hey, I just want to clear this up. What were you meaning by that? Or where were you? Like you said you were going to come over and you didn't come over. Or, hey, I actually need a bit more space. You're in my space too much. I need my personal space, right? I used to do this with my daughter. I say, this is my personal space and you need to ask permission to come into my personal space. I've got to give you permission to be able to come into my personal space, right? So that there's boundaries on your own physical space as well. Another one is respect and privacy. I remember the privacy thing is a really interesting thing, because when I was dating sometimes these things can be very subtle. So when I was dating this guy I ended up marrying, and it wasn't a very happy relationship. We weren't married for very long. One of the times I came home, he was sitting on the bed reading my diary. And I went into the place, our beliefs are really interesting, right? I went into the place of, I've got nothing to hide, and that it was okay. Now, it was a bit of a shock walking in and seeing him reading my diary, and he didn't make a big deal about it, and I didn't make a big deal about it. But it was a long time afterwards, and it was after we had separated, that I realized I stopped writing in my diary. I had stopped documenting things because I didn't know. So this is an unconscious pattern. I didn't know whether he was reading it or not, and I felt like, and there was nothing for me to hide, but there was no sacred space for me to just be myself and to say whatever I wanted on a page, for example. And so it was really unconscious, but I'd stopped writing in my diary because he had violated that personal space of mine. And so it was because I had a belief that I'm, this modern woman and free and easy and can do all the things, whatever I want, and that I am transparent, right? So it's really interesting watching the way our mind works and the behaviors and excuses that we start making up. So respect and privacy. What are your limits? What are the things that you want to hold sacred? And you might be an open book, right? You might have had no problem with that, and you might have still been able to write. For me, I didn't recognize that it was a problem until I'd noticed that I'd stopped doing it. I'd stopped writing. And I have diaries and diaries and diaries from a long period before that. And actually, I haven't really, now I do scripting, which we've talked about in here before. Now I script instead. And I'm in a relationship where anything that I want to share, I share with Tim, honestly, openly. We have privacy if we want to. We have a beautiful connection, but we've got a lot of space if we need it. And so, there is no, when we first got together, we wanted to know each other and there was a lot of connection and seeing each other all the time. But now, like in the afternoon, I could be upstairs and he could be downstairs doing our own thing. We've got that space and comfort with each other that we can have our own space in our environment, and it's not that being infringed by the other person, right? Emotional boundaries. So we've got emotional, physical, financial, and social boundaries. They're all different parts of who we are. So when you consider your emotional boundaries, what is it that you feel comfortable sharing? What is it you feel comfortable expressing? What is it that you want more attention with and you might not be getting it? Are you okay with physical touch? Do you find yourself saying yes to sex when you don't want to, or or you're adverse to physical touch and they want physical touch? All of these things, awarenesses around whether you are energetically aligned or not. So, are you being in the same social scenes, right? Like, do you like the same people? Are you free to go and hang out if you don't like the same people? Are you free to go and do your own thing and hang out? Like, I go and hang out with girlfriends, without Tim, because that's the way I want it. And Tim goes fishing with his mates, right? And I don't particularly want to go and fish and listen to all the crap that they carry on about. So those things are decisions that we've made, or it just happened naturally with us. But maybe it's things that we've got to talk about. What is it that you when it comes to social boundaries, are you comfortable being able to hang out with your girlfriends or your other friends, even male friends, right? Sometimes there's a lot of people that don't like their partners having friendships with the opposite sex. And so where do you stand with that? Is that a stand for, or is that stand against? All of these things are things that need to be looked at and addressed when it comes to choosing a conscious relationship. What are the things that you do when it comes to conflict resolution? How do you, when you have got something that you want to talk about, and you may have had an argument of some sort, how do you resolve that? Is there a healthy way that you're resolving that where you feel safe in the relationship, that you can actually express that with the other person? Or do you feel uncomfortable about that, and so you're hiding parts of yourself because you're not sure if you're going to be rejected for what you think, or you're going to be judged for the way you think? Now, I grew up in a family where my mum dictated everything. So when I was growing up, I grew up with the assumption and the belief that I didn't know anything and that everybody else knew what was going on except for me. And so when it came to conflict resolution, that was a big challenge for me, because I so didn't believe in anything that I thought that when it came to expressing my thoughts, I judged my own thoughts to start with and was concerned about being rejected and left and abandoned, because my dad was, my dad died when I was 15. So I had this unconscious belief that I had to do what I was told because I didn't want to be left by myself again. And it was underlined. That one was a really deep one. And so I stayed for a long time in the first relationship when I should have gone, because these boundaries were all of them were not in a beautiful place. They weren't being violated, but they definitely were dysfunctional in a lot of the when it came to having healthy boundaries. So what are your deal breakers? What is it that you are choosing to experience, and what is it that you're letting go of? What is it that you decide this is a deal breaker, right? I had a relationship where just started hanging out. Now, when you first start dating, it takes a little while for you to get to understand and to really understand each other and to find each other's patterns of behavior and all of the things. And so I remember I was dating this guy, and I'm pretty sure I've told the story on here before, because I was in a place where I was quite empowered and really strong and knew what I wanted and all those things. But you can have things that can be conflicting beliefs, right? Inside yourself, contradictory beliefs. And so he started, or he was the type of person that he thought that he was here to support all women. And so he had a lot of relationships with different women, and I had no problem with that. But as we went along, I realized that he was treating me exactly the same as he was treating every other woman, except for we were sleeping together, right? And so I noticed a couple of times that there was things that, like these bumps that I was telling you about, that there's these bumps in the system. And so, in my system. And so I had noticed, and I finally said something after, I didn't do it the first or second time. I let it play out for a little while and had to reflect on where I felt, what was going on, and how I felt about it. And I was starting to feel a bit icky, like, I felt like I wasn't being valued for who I was, and not seen as special in his life. So I brought it up, and cleared it out of the way, and he went into gaslighting. He started telling, who are you, and I thought you were supposed to be a woman of light, and you should be someone that allows me to love all women, because this is the way of the modern world, right? And I had to think about that, because there was part of me that agreed with what he was saying. And then there was another part that wanted to actually be special and to be something more than just another woman in his line of, in his harem, right? And so I had to sit with that and work out which belief was actually mine and which one was a limiting belief, because I was listening to a world belief of how, maybe it was going to be that my traditional belief of wanting to be the partner that was, honored and respected and separate from everybody else and seen as special. Maybe that was the traditional belief that was not right. Or the other one with the spiritual belief of we're all love and we're all connected and we should be able to love whoever we want. Maybe that was the one, right? And so I had to play with it, because our beliefs are our beliefs. And we want to work out what we want to tether to. Is this belief something that's mine, or is it something I grew up with and it was a cultural accepted belief, and so I'm just tethering to something that's actually not mine, and I'm just in this cultural pattern, and now it's time to break that? Or is it the other one, where I'm actually being guided by a new belief, but it actually doesn't sit right with me? Now, the first thing we all need to know is that it's okay to have whatever beliefs that you believe, as long as they're yours. They're the way you want to define yourself. They're the way that you want to experience life, because we're all here to experience, right? And the way we define ourselves and the beliefs that we have are ours when we start acknowledging that this is okay for me. So I went through the process and I checked it all out in my way, did some recoding. And what I discovered was that I personally, I wanted to be special in a relationship, right? I wanted to be the one that someone loved and honored and respected and treated me like their woman and all the things. And so that's what I decided. And so in that was a stand for. That's what I stood for. And it was a really good moment for me, because then I was able to really stand in that more energetically. And through that process, I separated with this guy. We separated. He realized that wasn't what he wanted, and fair enough, and all good. And I'm sure that because of that, because the next person I met was Tim on the beach. And so by defining that within me, I set a boundary, right? So now I have a healthy boundary within me that recognizes this is who I am, and I stood in that. So because of that, I got what I wanted when it comes to support and encouragement and all of those things, because I started defining myself in a different way. So when it comes to healthy boundaries in dating, it may take a little while, like depending on how intense the relationship starts. Like for me, I'm all in, and I find that when I'm in a relationship, I'm all in with that relationship, and so is the other person. Some people, you might find that you take it slow, right? Different personalities do different things. So when it comes to dating, what is it that you stand for and what is it that you stand against? Now, backing all of that up and coming into the recognition of what is it that I believe, who is it that is underneath all of these beliefs and emotions and all those things, who is my true self? What is it that my true self wants and true self believes? That's a big, big thing, because we have so much layering and filters and heaviness around the beliefs of the world and the beliefs of others that we might have been in our environment and influenced us, our own personal beliefs, but they're actually a family lineage, like they're things that your family have thought over and over again, and beliefs that your family have thought over and over again, cultural beliefs. Then we've got our wounding from our childhood that then make us come into beliefs about who we believe we are. We're not good enough, or not capable, or whatever it is that you resort back to when you're in your wounded state. All of that stuff can get really heavy, and you might not recognize who you are underneath all of that. So I hope that today's reflection has been an opportunity for you to really look at some of these layers, right? What are some of the things that are in your reality that you're holding on to? And what do you stand for and what do you stand against? Now, to support you in that, we're doing monthly mixes. Every month we're going to have a free session, and we're basically, this time around, we're doing the Mad Hatter's Tea Party, and we're looking at embracing your true self, recognizing who that is and what is underneath all of those layers, and letting go of the judgment that we might have of ourselves and the judgment of others. So even when you're concerned about the judgment of others, this process that we're going to go through is going to give you something to anchor onto, to recognize that actually this is who I am, and this is my identity, and this is what I want to move more aligned with. This is what I want to move towards, this identity, because when you're living in your own true identity, you're going to attract the people that really align with you energetically, right? That it's just the laws of the nature and the universe, that when you are stripped of all of that stuff and you move into your pure spirit, those things, those parts of you that are authentic and unique, they start being valued and honored and respected by those that are around you, because you're now showing that part of yourself, and you then start moving into these beautiful conscious relationships, right? So if you would love to be part of our monthly mixer and check it out, it's on the 24th of July. It's at 7:30. It goes for an hour and a half. We're going to do a beautiful ritual to recognize who we are, our true self, and to really connect with that part of ourselves. So you've got something to recognize and anchor into, right? So if you want to know more about that, or the link, then put a teapot into the comments and we will send you the link, because we're going to have a tea party. We're going to do the Mad Hatter's tea party. So if that's something that sounds like it's fun for you to be part of, then just put a teapot into the link and we will send you all the details. Take care. Hope you are having a magical week, and we will catch you next time.